Hey, welcome everybody. It's Mike and Massey with Self-Evident Podcast, and it's podcast numero 11.
For those of you who don't speak French, it's 11.
That's right, 11. It's 11, y'all. So this is a little bit unique as well. So the last podcast we did, it's our first interview. We had Sue Trombino on there, and she was talking about like voting, and she came from socialist countries and all these other things, and we wanted to kind of keep it broken up. You know what I mean? Like an interview and things like that. Well, now we're in a new room. Isn't this kind of neat? So this is actually a trial for us. We're going to see, you're going to see in the next future podcast, we're going to be changing up the room. And we're actually at a dear friend's studio right now. This is kind of his studio, and he let us use this for the night, which is awesome. So we're going to be talking about Mike's story right there. This guy, that guy right there. And so the whole point of this is for you guys to know who we are, what makes us tick, why do we keep doing this. You know, a lot of people tell me a lot of what you're doing is an uphill battle, you know, and you know, you should be careful, or you know, don't you feel like it's a lost cause? And for us, I think we know that the lost causes are the best ones to fight for. We have a lot of knowledge, and if we don't keep giving that knowledge, it's just going to turn into nothing, you know? So our job is to disciple people. And so we're going to start off this podcast here. This is, again, Mike's story, and I hope you guys enjoy this one. So, Mike, what's up, dog?
How's it going, man?
You know, it's going.
It's going.
It's really going. It's just got, we have a new little flair. It's kind of unique. We're in a studio.
Feels
it's actually
different.
It feels different, yeah. And but it's cool, right? So I got to ask you a few things first before we get started. Well, actually, we're going to get started. But just wanted to ask, like, so I met you, 7 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, it was something like that.
About 7 years ago. Yeah, we met each other in North Dakota, and we'll get into that story a little bit. Before we get started, I want to say, like, thank you for being a part of Self-Evident and all those things and what you're helping us do. I know sometimes, you know, you're working the full-time job. You got a little boy, all these other things. You got a cool wife. I mean, killer wife. She's amazing. And so I want to say thank you for helping us and, you know, helping me do the podcast and all these things, because we need that kind of knowledge, you know? And, so I wanted to get that out of the way, but so let's get this started. Like, what about Mike Sonneveld? What is it about you? I mean, they obviously know you're smart. What is it about you they don't know?
Boy, that's a hard question.
Isn't it?
Man, I don't even know where to begin on that. I think one of the things that people probably don't understand is that, or don't know about me, is that I've got this passion. I'm not really sure how to get it out. There's a lot of times where there's just things I want to do, or things that I see, and I don't know how to get them out. I don't know how to present them. And I don't know if that speaks to anybody, because a lot of times we have something that's inside us, that's churning, that's trying to drive, and we don't always know how to make that connection and get that out there. And this podcast has been an exploration of that. And how do I make that connection? How do I put the wheels to the road?
Yep, I understand that. So, like, obviously you have a passion. It makes you tick, right? But let's start from the, you know, from you know, the birthday suit to diapers, right? Like, where are you from? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town, West Michigan, Grand Haven.
Grand Haven.
Yeah. Coast Guard
Grand
City,
Haven.
USA.
Grand Haven.
It's
the Dutch Reformed.
Yeah, it's very conservative, Dutch Reformed.
Very Dutch.
Upper middle class to upper middle class, whatever you want to consider it. And I had a great childhood. Like, yeah, we've talked about it. There's a lot of people who had very rough childhoods and that kind of thing, and those make great testimonies. One of the things that I've had about my childhood was it was good. Amen. It was peaceful, which was a blessing. You know, and there are plenty of advantages to that. There are disadvantages, right? Lessons you don't learn. But at the same time, with without that stable foundation, who knows where I would have been, you know.
Yeah, deeper.
Yep. It really created a lot of who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
But think about that, right? So like you had a great childhood, you know. Now you did get into trouble, right?
Yep.
Because we're gonna kind of skip some years, right? So you're growing up, you're in elementary school, you're being raised by good parents. Your brother, same thing, right? We're getting into like high school years, your formative years, as far as like being a young man and who you are and things like that, coming into your own, right? And so I think one of the things I'm gonna say this about your mother. When I met her, she was probably one of the most genuine people I have ever met. And what did I meet her for, an afternoon?
Yeah, it was like once for an afternoon,
we had
couple
dinner
hours. And
yeah, and then she like wrote me this beautiful handwritten letter, and she took time to write that, like it wasn't something that she just made up off a whim. So you could tell that your mother was super involved. And I met your father too, and he's a really cool guy, just very quiet, so it's like, you're brought up in a really good home, but you get to your formative years, your high school years, and all of a sudden you start to veer off.
Yeah.
So kind of explain that. So you had a great family. So, and the reason why I want to build this contrast, and I'm not trying to talk a lot because I really want you to talk, but a lot of kids that say, well, I had a bad upbringing, blah, blah, I didn't get paid attention to, I didn't have a dad, that's why I did this. You did.
Yeah.
You had a mom, you had a dad. Yeah.
I still made my
Explain
mistakes.
that.
And you hit it pretty much on the head. I had a great upbringing. I had a peaceful childhood. I had good, solid parents who, believed in God. They had faith. They pushed me to have my own faith. And for whatever reason, it was almost one of those like, everything's comfortable, I want to explore. And I started drinking when I was 15 with a buddy of mine. He and I joke, he got me into drinking and I got him into pot. We started smoking pot when we were 16, something like that. And high school was pretty tame for me. I'd go to parties every once in a while or drink every once in a while. Only smoked pot a couple of times in high school, but it was really college where it broke open. In college was when the drugs became really important to me. I was drinking a lot, but the drugs were more the focus. The drinking was just
because that's a fun byproduct.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody else drank, so why not? And it wasn't this like, peer pressure. I've got to be cool in order to drink. Everybody else is getting drunk. Why not? And one of the things that attracted me, I think, to drinking that I don't think a lot of people admit to is you have a loss of responsibility when you're drinking.
Right.
Right. You're not responsible for yourself anymore. You're not responsible for even technically the consequences, right? You just,
I understand.
Your inhibitions go down and then you do what you want to do. And that was a big draw for me.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, even having that drug pass, I never did drugs in school, never drank, none of that stuff. And I had a great upbringing myself. I would say my dad and my mom were physically present. They were really cool about that. I grew up in a Christian home, but spiritually it was kind of off. And they'll admit that, they would admit that. But I just had this like deep, like my dad told me, if I catch you doing drugs, you get a girl pregnant, I'll break your teeth and legs. I mean, he meant it. So now Mexican people are like crazy.
Yeah, Dutch Reform don't tend to threaten like that. It's usually you just find you got cut out of the will 30 years later.
All of a sudden it's like, that's why you end up with teeth like this. Right? So, but going back to this, like, I know you now, right? Yeah. I'm glad I didn't know you back then. Even Paul said that in scripture. He said, we know no man after the flesh. I don't know a man after the flesh. I know him after the spirit. So I got to ask, where did all the Brainiac stuff come from? Right? Because like you have this giant, vast knowledge. Did it come high school, college? Were you already dabbling in it? Did it come after drugs? I mean, because there's a lot to your story, and I'm going to unpack it piece by piece, but because you have a lot in your in the dome and in your heart, So tell us about that. What?
In fourth grade, I had a teacher having a conference with my mom, and the teacher sat her down and said, "Look, Michael seems really smart. I just can't tell what's complete crap and what's not."
That's perfect, dude.
And
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I wonder if people think that about us now.
I really
It's
wonder.
yeah,
You know, like I wonder, like how many people go, he's just completely full of crap, but he sounds so convinced.
Sounds so good.
And that's what my teacher said. Was like he just
like
sounds so convinced.
You know, all of them:
exactly.
Obama, Trump, Bush.
Yeah, they know what they want to say. They're authoritative. So hey, he must be right.
He must be right. That's right.
One of the things was, like you said about my dad, he was very quiet. My dad's very stoic. I think I got a lot of that from him. So I call myself a high functioning introvert. I can be very social. I can do the salesman thing. I can do the deep relationship thing. But it drains me. I'm very much a by myself person who likes to observe and just suck in information. And so I was kind of always that way when I was a kid.
Yep.
I would just watch other people and watch what was going on and just pull in information. I think it really broke open in college. High school, I didn't really care about learning. I was too focused on the social aspects of the world. The usual high school stuff. College was where it really started to take hold. And
that's where you started to develop your theologies, right? Like you started studying religions and
I started studying, Buddhism, Eastern philosophy, Taoism, looked through Islam, but Islam never really interested me, I guess. But yeah, and
it's because you're an infidel.
I am.
You're an infidel, niche. I mean, hey, let's be real, right?
Yeah,
infidel, right? They should die according to that religion, But
yeah.
I'm sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine. There's military guys who will get like a tattoo that says like infidel on it. I was like,
that's cool.
I can't blame them.
No.
But in college, it was not that the drugs created it, but the drugs accelerated it.
Oh, get you.
You know what I mean? Like I was very, very interested in guys like Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan and these more out there, 60s, 70s rock stars. Not necessarily just because of the music, but because I felt like these guys were exploring untapped regions. Jim Morrison, I wrote about him in college, and I remember writing about him and saying he's either a genius who's crossed over to the other side spiritually, psychologically, or he's a complete nut bar. And I said, and I was more on the side of, I think this guy's figured something out in complete genius, and the drugs have helped him get there.
That's kind of the question about Christ too, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Either he was like a truth teller and he was straight up God, or he was a straight nut.
Lord or lunatic, right? C.S. Lewis says, what is it? Lord, liar, or lunatic? You pick one.
Say that again.
Lord, liar, or lunatic?
C.S. Lewis said that.
Yep.
Man, because like, and stay on this.
Fine.
Stay on this vein. So you're studying religions. You understand. You're trying to figure out what you believe, your ideals, and obviously most of these religions, Eastern religions, Buddhism, all these things, it's all about centrism and yourself and euphoria, utopia, all these things. Explain how that kind of kept you in that.
Oh man, so to step back one step, Christianity, I grew up in a Christian home, always kind of by name. It was, I'm a Christian.
Sure.
So I got the theological background because, Dutch Reformed, we're heavy on the theology of stuff, the doctrine, right? And so I always had appreciation for that. Get into college, and so I've got that in the back of my mind, the foundations of Christ and what he taught. The joy to me, or I shouldn't even say joy, but the interest I had in things like Buddhism or Taoism, or there was this psychological aspect of almost self-help to a lot of it.
Crazy.
But also this self-interested teaching to it, cloaked in selflessness. Right. And like you and I have talked about, the idea of nirvana is really the cessation of self, the cessation of existence, which is interesting to me now.
Funny because you said that's how you used to escape with drinking.
Exactly.
You void yourself of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're actually talking about this, because if people could get a hold of this, why people get into drugs. Like, I was addicted to pornography, right?
Yeah.
Why I did that, because I was in a nirvana. It was like,
Yeah.
it's this place of, I can control it. I don't know a drunk or person who gets drunk that says I can control it.
Yeah.
They're always like, I so
I'm fine.
I can have another 5
I
beers.
can quit. I just don't want to.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's that nirvana. It's that, like you said, it's that place where it's like, I can control. I'm in control. It's still gratifying me, but it's not really hurting me. Explain more of that.
Yeah, that idea of I can control, I'm in charge, and the escape of consequence, or almost the escape of existence.
Wow.
Right? There's this attraction to escaping existence, because existence
psychology
is
now,
it's painful. Yeah, that's the stuff that fascinated me in college, was the idea of being able to escape my consequences or responsibilities. And the funny thing was, the more I tried to do that, the more the nagging of conviction and shame were clawing at me. So it's like I'm running from, danger into 10 times the danger. I'm running from one tiger running right into the face of 10 tigers. I'm running deeper into the mud, because every time I try to avoid my responsibilities, avoid my problems, I'm creating more by what I'm doing. And so it was this real spiral of just confusion, depression, shame, and I don't want to put that veneer on it.
I understand
that a lot of people tend to. Like, I was, in the gutter and ready to kill myself. It wasn't like that. And not that I'm downplaying people who are in that position, but a lot of times you can function really highly and still be
we've got
drinking and drugs all the time.
Got two people at our church that used to function. They were psychologists. what do you call it? Yeah, psychologists. They would sit and listen to people, and she said we were high functioning drunks.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So anyways, so you're getting through college. I remember, you're close to getting the degree, am I not mistaken?
Yeah.
And you're kind of taking some turns. You were dating a girl. I mean, this is just some of the story, like, you're going bonkers, like so let's talk about relationships, right?
I tried to delve into everything. I tried to get deeper into everything. So the drugs and stuff, I was looking for the spiritual expansion. I was looking for the achievement of the mental point that I wanted to get. And at the same time, I was trying to delve deeper into relationships. I was going after girls left and right, and it really it peaked with a relationship that I had a nuclear meltdown. She and I were both broken people, completely broken people, and there were all kinds of red flags and warning signs on both sides, and it culminated in us, having a real bad night where she, wanted to leave home leave with another guy, and
This was pivotal for you, though.
Yeah, it was. It really was, because we were at the bar, and this guy approached her, and she ended up getting a free beer with him, and she disappeared with him and came back and disappeared again and came back, and we were on the car ride home, and he called her while we were in the car together, and and I knew what was going on, and she was trying to play coy, and we got home, and I slammed the car door as hard as I could and just started walking away. And I remember she called after me. She's like, well, can't we still be friends, or call me, or something like that. And I was like, never.
No more Nirvana.
No. Yeah, no, this is not Nirvana. And so I went on a 3-day bender to try and find Nirvana again. And it didn't work. But it was really pivotal. It was the moment that really made me realize everything is wrong, and I have no clue how to get right. And I was a mess after it. relationships just I couldn't really get a relationship after it. I was so just destroyed. And the drugs and alcohol were just not fixing the problem.
Right.
I was having fallen out with friends. I had one friend who he and another friend's girlfriend were always kind of at odds, and they had a night where they blew up and, mixed stories about what happened. And he had anger problems before, and I finally told him, I was like, you got to get your anger straight. He and I haven't talked since, which is sad to me. But that was the stages that my life was going, right? Was all this is just falling apart.
Did you find even in that situation, like you're correcting things in other people because you needed them corrected in yourself? Like, was that a point in your life where it was like, because you know how it is, right? In Christianity, when you have to say something to somebody, and I want everybody to hear this, Christianity isn't about pointing fingers. But although it needs to happen, we need to correct each other. But you do it in love. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I notice the people that try to correct us the most, and they try, it's in them. That's why they get upset and frustrated.
Yeah.
So, like, is that what you experienced?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I've told you this before, like, it tends to be the thing that we hate the most in other people is the thing that we actually hate in ourselves.
That's exactly it.
Right?
I completely agree.
And so I was seeing things. That's a good observation that you made, was like the things I saw in my friends were the things I didn't like in myself. And this, especially instability and low self-esteem and depression and all of that stuff. And it was getting to like the drug abuse and alcohol abuse I was starting to see in other people and didn't like it. And so I move out of my apartment. I was living by myself. My lease was up, thank goodness. A buddy of mine took me in. He offered it up, and at first I was like, no. And then why not?
Yep.
And a super straight-laced guy, like never drank, never did drugs or smoked, and not out of any like moral superiority, just
straight edge.
I don't need to. Straight edge, yeah. He played minor league hockey. He was an enforcer for the team and just a good guy. And so I finally found, stable living environment. So the drinking and the drugs got a lot less, right? And I found myself having graduated, working in a 4x4 cinder block building, no door, no window, on a wooden stool, no electricity, taking tickets at a small little city park. And I had no clue what I was going to do or where I was going to go. I was really at the bottom of it.
So this was your epiphany of
what
am I? What the H am I on this earth for?
Yeah, and the whole time I had been trying to satisfy what I wanted and my desires while still holding on to some type of belief, religious moral compass. Yeah, and I realized that I had been treating Christianity, the cliche of buffet Christianity: take what I want, leave behind what I don't want. Yeah. Oh goodness. We need to go to Colden Garrell.
Colden Garrell.
Can
we have a moment of silence for Colden Garrell? All right.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, thank you, Lord. Kilwins, another moment of silence.
Oh, yes. All right. Thank you, Lord.
Actually, anyways, so it was pivotal for you. You saw at that moment, like, man, what is life about? Because I think that happens to all of us that become Christians. Like, what is this about?
Yeah. Yeah. And I realized I had to either take it or leave it. I couldn't keep saying, yeah, I'm a Christian, but hey, I'm going to sleep with whoever I want, do whatever I want, think whatever I want. That's not a Christian, right?
That's right.
And so what I did was I decided, I need to either take it or leave it. And I'm sitting in this little ticket booth 11 hours a day through the summer. I go, I'm going to read through the whole New Testament. And by the end of it, I'm either done or I'm all in. And so I started first page of Matthew, read all the way through, and by the end of it, I was born again. And
that's great.
Yeah.
You didn't have a spiritual mentor, I guess. Cool.
Yeah. Besides Christ himself, like the words, that moment where the words come off the page and you're like, this isn't just writing. This isn't just a
real
person speaking. This is real. Like this is God's where it's coming out of here. And so I born again, like, okay, what am I going to do? And trying to figure out where am I going to go? What am I going to do for a job? I had an English degree, teaching certificate failed on me, which I really believe was God. But there were a couple of classes that I had mono and I had just transferred and I didn't care about school. And so those classes were horrible. Guess what? 4 specific classes I needed to have a higher GPA in order to get into the College of Ed, and so it's like, okay, so tried a couple of different jobs. God really kept me from those, like the wrong resume or cover letter going to a job that I was really excited about and not figuring it out until after,
Yep.
just these moments where it was like, okay, God, I'm going to accept you don't want me here. And I happened to be talking to my mom one night and she said, well, why don't you call your cousin? He's out in the oil fields. Maybe there's a job out there. So I call him and he says, yeah, my boss says, if you can be here by Monday, you've got a job. This was, I don't know, Thursday night. So I pack up my car on Friday and I drive out to North Dakota, right?
What kind of hot rod did you have?
Honda Accord Coupe
Holla.
V6. Woo!
Holla.
Riding. And so I make it out there Sunday night. Monday morning, my cousin goes into work and he gets back and he's got this look of, like he had a bad day, or disappointment, or something was off. And I didn't want to bug him, but I was kind of like, so job, what'd your boss say? It's like, he said he doesn't have anything for you. So now I'm in North Dakota, screwed again. And it was like, okay, Lord, what am I doing here? Why am I here? If that's what happened, what do I do? So I sat for a day. The day after that, I got a knock on the trailer door because we were living in a trailer behind the shop, because Wild West out there. And
y'all got to experience this place at least once.
Oh my goodness, man! And we can talk about it in a couple minutes because it was a whole different experience. But knock on my door. Kid asked me if I'm Mike. I said, yeah. He says, one of the managers wants to talk to you. So I come in, and the manager goes, he says he heard what happened. He's like, can you talk to people? I said, yeah, I can hold a conversation. I said, well, there's another division that needs a salesman. So here's where you got to go. Go see that manager, do an interview. And I'm doing the interview. He's walking me through the shop. In my head, I'm thinking, I don't want to be a salesman. I want to be on the rigs. I want to be, throwing chain. I want to be throwing pipe. And one of the things that I've been talking about to the Lord about is, Lord, I need a truck. I need a job that pays me well enough that I can have a truck, because there's no way my little Honda Accord is going to survive in a North Dakota winter. And I'm talking to this manager. And he says, so job pays $60,000 a year. You get a company truck, drive it no matter where you need to go, get groceries, whatever, you drive the truck. I was like, oh, well, that does it.
And you got a gas card.
And I got a gas card. Yeah, my gas was paid. I could drive. He wanted me to drive it everywhere I went.
I just want you to know we don't offer that benefit. It's self-evident.
No. If we do, I want a truck. And he asked me, he's like, how long can you give me? And I said, 2 years. I can give you 2 years. Yeah. All right, deal. Dude, I was crying when I left there and I went to Applebee's to have lunch, and dude, I was crying, man. 'Cause good paying job, company truck,
Bennies.
like benefits, like, God, you're taking care of me. And I look back now and I see what he was doing, because for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, I was driving around by myself, basically. And there was a radio station that played sermons all day. And for a couple of weeks, I listened to one sermon a day. in a couple of weeks, I was listening to 2 or 3. Pretty soon, I wasn't listening to any music. I was listening to sermons 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And I got a seminary education in like 2 years. Like, it just, God soaked me in it. And I really grew in learning who he was and what my faith was supposed to be about during that time, which I never would have had on the rigs.
Yeah. So bringing it back, so now you're in North Dakota. God answered prayers. You're a Christian. How long have you been a Christian at this point?
I mean,
but for real, legit.
Yeah, legit, real relationship with Christ. It was probably about 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years.
So you grew fast.
Yeah.
You had to start growing fast. So I think it's funny because North Dakota, you just have to experience it. It's at that time, anyways, the roads were getting tore up by all the semis.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the gas trucks literally, they were always doing construction on them roads.
Yeah.
And even the back roads were all like dirt and rock.
Yep.
And so, like, you had a car, it was over. That car's done. And it was the Wild West. I remember when we started going there as a ministry, I'd go there and fundraise. That's how I met you, and we'll get into that in a second. I remember when we'd go there, it was
dicey.
It was disgusting. Yeah. And I'll say this, I mean, it was like, I think one year when we started going there, a year prior, it was like 450 ladies, not men included, had applied for a gun permit. It was just because people were getting raped, people were getting whatever. So I want you to kind of like talk about that and then talk about how we met,
Yeah. So out there, just to give you an idea, an apartment, I remember seeing an ad for an apartment. It was going for $3,000 a month.
And there's no luxury house there. It's a small town.
Yeah, small town. All the houses are getting bought up real quick. It was a mess. So not everybody, but a lot of people were living in trailers, what they called man camps, which were basically just plug and play
huts,
big huts, and there was just, I don't want to over dramatize it, but there was a lot of lawlessness going on. You could feel the spiritual heaviness.
Dude, they were bringing in prostitutes to those places.
Oh yeah, girls were coming from like Las Vegas because they could make more money out there than they could in Vegas. And there was a hotel that's what it was known for, was you go there to get the prostitutes, and drugs were rampant, meth was rampant. I had very close friends of mine go down the path of meth.
School systems overflowed.
Yeah, and I had other people who they had guns put to their heads. A guy got shot with a shotgun in front of the strip club one night, and people had been kidnapped and raped and murdered. And
what's that one story?
Which
the baseball bat?
Oh, the baseball bat. That one you told me about. So Massey's one of the first times he's in town, and I love this story. Somebody had parked a Cadillac
in front of the liquor store.
Liquor store in the wrong spot.
Just in front of the liquor store.
Some guy comes out, looks at you, is like, "Is this your car?" And no. Dude grabs a baseball bat, starts wailing on it.
Just whipping on the car. He was ripping on the lights. He was ripping on the hood. And he parked behind him. He thought the guy was moving. Well, the guy went inside, I think, to pay a bill or something. Yeah. Liquor. I don't know what it was. But he wasn't supposed to park there because it was a drive lane, right? So he just whips out a baseball bat. It's crazy.
And that was that town. Was like, I always had my head on a swivel. If I was pumping gas, my back was to the car and my head was everywhere. I remember when I started dating Melissa, I'd be in Madison. My head would be on a swivel. And she would kind of ask me, like, "What's up? Why can't you relax?"
Madison, Wisconsin, y'all.
Yeah, Madison, Wisconsin. The danger zone of soy drinking.
Yeah, it's
liberals.
Iraq. It's just there.
It's kids in beanies,
cheese, all them cheese and cows.
Yep. No, but my head was on a swivel. I was always watching, careful, because I knew people had gotten in trouble, and I knew there was danger around every corner. I stayed pretty safe, but we had a couple of hairy calls. We had a couple of close events. But my faith was growing, which was cool because I had a couple of really good mentors while I was out there who helped me see the spiritual side of what was going on in there. And you really started to see the darkness of that was over the city, but you could see the light that was working against the darkness.
So it wasn't a flesh fight, it was a spiritual fight.
It was a spiritual fight completely.
Yeah.
Complete spiritual fight.
So explain, like, then we met.
Yeah, so
My dog.
I'm going to the store for pot pies.
Pot pie, y'all.
And
How many? No.
I remember one of my roommates was like, "Oh, well, this place is having a deal on them." And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not going there. I don't even care if they're having a deal. I want to go to this other place because that's where I want to go. Which, dude, God directs us. God really directs us in our desires, right? There's no reason I couldn't go to the other store, but just in my head, I was like, no, I don't want to. So I park, and I'm walking in, and there's this Mexican guy who's working a table.
Good-looking Mexican.
Good-looking Mexican guy with the hair gelled and, and I'm trying to not make eye contact because the last thing you want to do is make eye contact with the people at the table in front of the store, right? And he pulls me over. He's like, "Hey, you like rock music?" Yes, I do. and puts the headphones on me and playing some rock music, some really good stuff, and I'm really liking it. And we get talking about government and the government's role and the founding fathers and the Constitution and God's role in all of that. And like, you and I talked for probably 2 hours, something like that. We were out there for a while. Yeah, it was North Dakota in April. You had to at least have a sweatshirt on, right?
It's crazy, man. I remember that. And it's North Dakota, like there's no covering.
Yeah, no. The wind just cuts right through.
Right.
And we exchanged phone numbers and lifelong friendship, man. Brotherhood. Just that instant connection. And so we talked a lot. And I had thoughts about, should I join the ministry that you were a part of? Should I not? I went out and visited you and
went on
took
tour
a tour
with us.
it. Yeah. Went on a couple of tours or tour events. And
well, look how God kept you. There was
exactly.
that story. Yeah.
Yeah. God kept me, man. Like, so one of the things was I was struggling with pot. And I had cut it out. I was like, I'm done. But every once in a while, I'll creep back. And there was one Saturday, I was standing in a circle, guys were passing it around, and I just grab it. It's just this reaction or this natural movement. Hit it, pass it, realize what I've done. And I'm like, oh, well, what am I going to do? Monday rolls around, company-wide drug test.
It's not funny, but that's hilarious.
It's funny. God's got a sense of humor. So
dude just takes a hit of weed and he has a company thing, dude.
Yep.
This is crazy.
Get high and 2 days later, company drug test. And so I go and take the drug test and I walk back and I sit down with my boss and I look at him and I say, well, just want to let you know I may not pass that drug test. He looks at me. He's like, well, why didn't you tell me? I would have sent you home. Oh, dude, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But he and I had a really good relationship. He was always looking out for me and kind of took me under his wing. And I was helping him in his faith walk, figuring out who God was. So I'm driving around that day. I'm like, Lord, if you want me to lose this job as a consequence for what I did, I accept that. I'm okay with losing this job. I trust you either way. I accept how badly I screwed up. And I made the oath. And I always tell people, be very careful about an oath that you speak. But I was like, I'll never smoke pot again, Lord. I'm done. And so I'm figuring, okay, I'm going to lose my job. Day rolls around. I don't hear anything. Okay, maybe it takes 48 hours. Another day rolls around. I don't hear anything. Wednesday, Thursday, I get to Friday. I'm like, I'm in the clear. I pissed negative. Like that, how the heck did that happen? Right? And it's like, Lord, you kept me. You had mercy on me. I'm not going to forget this, you know? And that was right around the time that I was like, maybe should join the ministry, maybe not. And I remember calling the leader of it and letting him know. And I remember expecting more reaction. It was more just oh, okay. You know, it kind of like, well, maybe
it won't work out.
Maybe this isn't going to work out type deal. Yeah. My time is better spent with something else. And I consider that moment one of the moments where the Lord really kept me from it. I had always had like back and forth and lack of peace, which I learned was a sign from the Lord of, okay, if I'm not having peace about this, then I need more prayer and I need to be patient and wait. And that waiting really brought about that event of like, okay, I can see I'm just not going to be a part of this, right? Which was good. And so things are up and down, back and forth in my life, settling down, and I get a call from my dad. My mom had some blood tests. She had cancer before, and it had gone into remission. She'd had kidney cancer. It had gone into remission. It was good for a year and a half, and she had gone in and had some more tests, and they had found some stuff that had concerned them in her liver. And I got a call from my dad. I remember I was driving from a work site, and he had said that I needed to come home, right? And it wasn't like they were keeping me in the dark, but it was kind of like, oh, well, you know, these tests had gotten worse, and then it just accelerated. Like it was super speed.
Because what I've noticed about your story, because I want you to get into this, your story's been one of, what am I doing? What's this all about? You come to a pivot, and all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. And then this next moment, you come to a pivot, boom, it's gone. You're going out in Wisconsin, all of a sudden, it's like, poof, your mom has cancer. Even moving here, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But like, just all these, I've arrived, poof, I've arrived, poof, I've arrived, poof. And you were prospering out there.
Yeah.
Your mom has cancer. And I've it's a hard topic to talk about. But she impacted my life, you know, in just the short amount of time that I knew her. 'Cause she actually gave a crap, you know, she cared enough about me, you know. It was really neat because I talked to her a couple times on the phone too.
Yeah.
We had talked, and explain what that's like in like as best you can, because a lot of people out there experience loss.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know. They feel the same way you do. It's like every time I'm going to advance in something, bam, it gets taken away.
Yeah.
Explain that, you know.
And I'll get into the macro of that later, because that's how my life has felt. It was just like the carrot and the stick, and I've gotten to the point of kind of laughing with God of like, okay.
But you keep the faith.
Yeah. It's like, okay, Lord, obviously that was just to get. But so, Dad calls me, and I say, okay, I obviously got to fly home. And I fly home. I was able to see her before she just wasn't responsive, which I'm very thankful for. Got to tell her I love her. Actually got to introduce her to Melissa. She was kind of in and out, but was able to say hi to Melissa. And Mom finally passes away a couple of days later. And I remember she passed away at like 2:00 in the morning. And
this was swift.
It was swift. They found it, and it was like 2.5, 3 weeks later, she was gone, right? Because it had spread through her whole body. And my dad, brother, and I had never been super close. Like it had always been kind of a distant relationship, respectful but distant. My brother and I were less respectful towards each other at a lot of times.
Was that after you became a Christian too?
Yeah, and I I had sent him some long emails. I don't regret what I said. I mean, I felt like I had a lot of tact in how I said it, but, just like kind of calling him out of like, if you're going to have faith, are you going to have faith? And, that kind of thing. And so he and I were always kind of tense because I was conservative. He was liberal. And I cried for about 15 seconds, which threw me for a loop because it's like, okay, shouldn't I be bawling right now? Shouldn't I be torn up completely? Which I was, but I wasn't. I remember walking out of the hospice and looking up at the sky. It was like 2:00 in the morning, like I said, and the stars were there. And I was just like, okay, next step. Like, she's gone. And I tried to figure out why my emotions weren't matching what I thought I was supposed to feel. And I've actually had people ask me this, like, why don't I feel as torn up as I should about something? And that was tearing me up, was like, I should be emotionally devastated, which it really hurt, but there was kind of like this sense of peace of she's in heaven. So
Shoot,
I've got the bonus,
you're better
right?
man than I, man.
You know?
That's tough.
She's
I wouldn't
she's
keep it
got the
together. I know
bonus.
me, man.
Yeah, like, and I've had times where I've been unhappy with my emotional stoicism. Like, it gets frustrating sometimes. But I was talking to my youth pastor, who I had in high school, who really helped kind of give me the seeds that kept me directed. If he hadn't have put those seeds in there, who knows where I would have been 5-10 years. And he had said, look, that's the peace that surpasses all understanding. You don't have to be emotionally devastated by this. You feel how you feel.
How long has it been?
Now, boy, she died 2012, so 6 years. She was my best friend, man. Like, she was the one who knew me the best. She was the one who I felt like I could tell anything to. But one of the blessings of it was my brother, my dad, and I all grew a lot closer after it. Our relationship really strengthened, and we all got to know each other a lot better after that. And one of my cousins, had called me up 6 months later, told me how it was her funeral that made him realize that he needed to change his life. And he was doing some things, I guess. And he never told me what, which is fine. But he was doing some things that he had to change.
I got to ask you, how did you keep it together through that? A lot of people find loss to be devastating, and they ask God why. You almost said, okay, God, now what?
Yeah. I think my biggest frustration was, why didn't my prayer get answered for her to be healed? But
Which is a legit question.
Yeah, and I still have that question sometimes of like, why? Why sometimes, why not others? But I think the thing that carried me through was relying on the fact that I didn't know what God was doing with it.
Right.
Like, trust that even if it's a seed, just holding on to that seed of trust of God's doing something with this. And I don't know, and my prayer was, Lord, just show me why. Give me a reason why.
Gotcha.
And I had been praying this, and I don't remember how long, but after I had been praying that prayer was when my cousin called me, and said, look, I want you to know your mom's funeral changed my life.
Wow.
It was like, okay, Lord. Thank you. That's what I needed.
Confirmation, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
I get you.
And so that was really kind of what carried me through, was doing my best to trust that I didn't know, and accepting that.
So now your mother dies, you go back out to North Dakota, but you got a girl now.
Yeah.
Like there's this relationship brewing.
Yep.
I don't know how far you were along in this process. I was still
not very far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But talk about now. So like the overcomer of Christ in you, how do I explain it? There's just been a lot that's happened in your life, but I could see God overcoming you. And so now you get married, which I was a part of.
Heck yeah, somebody had to run
Somebody had
sound.
to run the soundboard.
Which I'm still thankful for.
Photobomb the marriage wedding thing. Photobomb.
I still want the picture frame of like
Yes.
normal Massey. You guys, you have to see this picture.
He'll
And
put it up, actually.
I'll try and put it up. I'll see
Yeah.
if I can find it because it's hilarious. It's perfect. Oh.
Him and his wife were kissing, and I'm like in the back doing something really
You were just like,
ridiculous. Yeah, we're doing something ridiculous. So you get married.
no.
You're in Wisconsin. You guys are working. You're working. And again, this is the dangle carrot thing.
Yeah.
You come back from North Dakota. You're in Wisconsin to be with your wife.
Yep. And so I'll try to keep this short. But I was in North Dakota. Time was wrapping up. I moved to Wisconsin.
You gave your boss your 2 years.
Yeah.
Like you promised.
Yep. And he was totally cool with that because Melissa and I decided we need to be in the same city to figure this out. And I felt called to write a book about my experiences in my walk with God. And every time I tried to get a job, it just would not pan out. It didn't feel right. So, okay, I'm supposed to write this book, Lord. So I finished the book. I decided I'm going to self-publish it. 3 days later, a woman from church who I've met for 15 seconds calls Melissa, says, one of the women in our prayer group, her and her husband are looking for a manager type with leadership skills and responsibility. And I immediately thought of Mike. How the heck did you think of me?
And
you don't know
said
me.
through the process you wrote a book.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
From Bust to Boom.
You guys got to check it out on our website.
Yeah. It really gives this full story. And gives some other funny and cool stories in it too.
I'm in it.
Massey's in it.
Is my name Massey?
Yeah. Remember
right,
I
you
asked
asked
you.
me.
Yep. There were a couple of people I asked. I was like, do you mind if I use your real name? You're like, absolutely.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be famous?
Exactly.
I'm in a book.
Yeah. See?
I'm in a couple, actually.
See?
I'm in a couple. I was in the Southern Ministry Institute on Constitution, and some dude in Texas wrote about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
some
didn't know
senator,
about
some
that.
state senator guy.
Huh.
Pretty awesome.
Cool.
I'm famous.
You are?
Anyways, back to you.
Anyways.
What am I doing? I'm hijacking his mess.
So I go to the interview, and the guy's super strong Christian believer. He and I totally hit it off. We're very similar guys.
It's the owner of Kilwins.
Owner of Kilwins, or the franchise store in Madison.
Yes.
But
yes.
But yes. And so I start working this job.
Lord Jesus.
And for a while, I'm mad. I'm pissed. I'm 28, 29 years old, and I'm scooping ice cream.
Hear that,
So-
Breno?
I was so mad at Lord. It's like,
By the way, Breno's our camera guy right now.
Yeah.
This guy's awesome. He's been helping us do our videos the last few weeks.
and it was like, Lord, I have so much more potential than this. Why am I wasting it?
Right.
Plus, I wasn't making very much. I had gone from making $60,000 with company truck and benefits to $25,000 a year out the door, right? And my boss and I get really close. We start talking about opening another store. Now I'm starting to see
The carrot.
Oh, the carrot. I'm like, ooh, this could be cool. I could be owning my own franchise store by the time I'm 30, right? That's achievement.
It's the American dream, man.
American dream, right? Start your own business, grow, build.
Thinking right.
And I get this phone call from this fluffy Mexican who says, hey, I could really use some help with my ministry, so I want you to pray about it. And one of the things I loved is you said it once, and there wasn't much else said after that. It was just kind of like, hey, what you thinking? It was never like, you need to come down. You did say, I really feel like it's supposed to be you, but you said, look, you need to pray about it. And we spent 6-7 months praying about this, and it really felt like, okay, Lord, this is what we're supposed to do. So forget the dreams of owning the store. Forget all those dreams. My wife and I pack up. We quit our jobs. We moved down to Florida. And we get there, and here, I should say, and I need money. So you had a buddy who was doing asphalting. He needed help with a mall
This is our first
parking
year of
lot.
ministry. Yeah.
This was like the first month or two I was in town,
Yeah.
right?
This is the first year of Self-Evident.
Yeah. And so I come out to help do the asphalting project, work 3 weeks, busting butt, and guy doesn't pay me a dime.
I still remember that.
Oh, my goodness. Still hasn't paid me a dime.
Still hasn't paid you a dime.
No.
But you had invited us into, or we had invited you into our house. And
Which that was a huge blessing. And so she and I were trying to figure out what to do. Ministry just was, it was first year for the ministry. We just were not taking in money to support all of us.
I just for the record, I wasn't supporting myself, so it was very hard for me to say I could pay you. I thought we could have, but it was like, it's our first year, you know what I mean? Unless you have capital donors, you don't have that. And so, but very gracious and understanding on it.
Well, and it was just part of it. So it was like looking at that and going, okay, Lord, this is falling out too, what's going on. And after lots of prayer and discussion and thoughts and all of this, and it's kind of like, okay, I need a stable paycheck. And a school had approached you. We were helping out the high schoolers, and the school had approached you and said, hey, we're interested in Mike teaching here.
Kind of the background of that, real quick, was I got involved in the school. My kids go to this Christian school, and I had preached there several times since I minister and stuff, and I got to know the head dean administrator, the school administrator. So him and I were going twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday? Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah. One day we would do just like, hey, ask any question biblically, not even biblically, anything you wanted, and we'll tie it into the scripture. And then the other day was worldview, you know. So it was fun. But then he asked about you teaching because he knew you had some kind of a teaching background.
Yeah, and he and I had several conversations, and he had specifically said that he was interested in me taking over for him as administrator. So it was like, okay, Lord,
is this what it is?
Is this what it is? Because teaching, I was kind of like, nah, I think that ship has sailed. But I was like, administrator, that's something I could sink my teeth into. And things didn't really move. And then they were talking to me about being a principal at the school for the next year. And then his health started failing. Somebody else came in and started taking over leadership of the school, and all of that fizzled out and failed away, right?
Let's be honest, you hated it too.
Yeah, I was not happy. I was not happy at all.
Not happy, Bob?
No.
You should put that clip in there from The Incredibles.
That's a good idea. Not happy, Bob. and so that felt like another carrot and stick. And that's one thing that I feel like has been an overarching theme in my life of like, okay, Lord, there's always this, maybe that's what it's supposed to be. And then it dissolves. And I've really, now I'm working for a roofing company and it pays the bills. It's not necessarily something I want to do for the rest of my life, but it's work and it pays, and it's
got a cool boss.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So one of the things I've learned is that faith and reliance in the Lord has to be faith and reliance on Him and who He is, not on our expectations of what we think He should do or think He should be. Because our expectations breed disappointment. Because if my expectation of God is that I'm going to own my own Kilwins franchise and I don't own that, then I'm disappointed in God and mad at Him that He didn't fulfill what He never promised me, just what I saw and thought was the next step, And that's probably been one of the biggest faith lessons that I've taken away is it's reliance on Him and staying in the moment of what He has you doing now, because I do still believe I have a calling in ministry and with the podcast and with speaking and all of that. But if now's not the time, then now's not the time, and I have to accept that.
I do think too, though, like just to add to what you're saying, because this is important. You know, having a newborn, it'd be hard for you to travel
It would be.
and be gone from the kid, you know,
Yeah.
and gone from your wife. Your wife is going to support you no matter what. She's proven that, right? But I did that in ministry. I did that where I'm gone. Today, I haven't even been home, you know? And right now it's currently almost, past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was gone since I dropped him off at school. Haven't seen him since, you know? Ministry becomes not a life per se. It doesn't take me over, and I do see them quite often. Just saying, today's one of those examples. But early on in ministry, I was gone 3 weeks a month, you know, thinking to save the world, blah, blah, blah. But it's like almost God's developing a lot of who daddy is right now. Like he's developing who you are as a dad. I mean, I'm just saying this from what my observation is of you. Yeah. But now, dude, you have the opportunity to do this podcast and like get it up off the ground and do, you know, hopefully monetize it someday and do these things. And I think he gave you a really good business mindset to do it, you know. If there's one thing that you could tell these folks about your faith walk to get them through, what is it that you would tell them to close it out?
Yeah. I think the most important thing to a faith walk is to be willing to take those steps and make those choices to follow God. Because if you look back at my life, my faith life, there's been step after step after step of where I've stepped out and done what some people consider drastic, right? And you have to continue doing that. But having reliance on the Lord that may not always turn out the way you want it to, you know, and know that he's good to still continue taking care of you through the thick and thin.
Is that out? Is your camera out?
That's not a battery, but this one's recording.
Okay. No, I get it, man. That's awesome. I think more and more, like, I learn more from your faith. I think I learn more from who you are, and you teach me patience. I'm the most impatient guy. God's changing that, praise God, and I mean that. He's changed me a lot. But just to see your patience and your brotherhood, and like, even though it didn't pan out the way we all wanted it to, we can still see it. No. It's still going to, you know, we have this vision of where it's going to go. And folks, just being honest, it's hard to pay myself. I work at a church now, you know what I mean? Just to help supplement and pay bills and things like that. But, you know, and I pastor, and it's just God all the way. It's been God. But I want to say thank you for being so open and honest. And, you know, even talking about loss, I don't know if I could do that. You know, I'd probably break and leave. I mean, you saw my testimony. I was a blubbering baby, you know, but thank you so much for sharing with us that story and who you are. And we so love, my wife and I can just say this, we so love having you guys in our lives, and you enriched us. You've helped take care of our kids, you know, when we needed to go do ministry and stuff like that. And, you know, we're hopefully always returning the favor, you know what I mean? And we're going to keep plowing through this one, God willing. You know, it's just going to keep going through it. So, guys, if any of you have been touched by this, seriously, consider supporting us. Go on to Patreon. It's patreon.com/self-evident ministries. Also, our YouTube page. Get on there and subscribe, guys.
Yeah.
And when you subscribe, click that bell, get the notifications from us so that it gets right to your email. You can see the latest podcasts and things like that. We're going to keep doing interviews. We're going to be as blunt as we can, as open as we can. I'm going to say this, guys. We're as truthful as it gets. You know what I mean? And go ahead.
No, I was going to say we're willing to say it. We're willing to not shy away. So if you guys have questions, you have thoughts, please feel free to get into it with us. And as we have guests on, it's our goal, really, to be honest,
to go with people that we don't,
without becoming offensive.
Yeah, because we don't need to be. I mean, Jesus is offensive to sin already. You know what I mean? Let's not be jerks about it. I said that, you know, in my story. But again, please go on our website as well, theselfevidenttruth.com, theselfevidenttruth.com. You guys can support there. Cop yourself a shirt.
Yeah.
We got some new designs out. We got our DVD out and stuff like that. We're going to be coming out with a new DVD next year. Just a lot of cool vision stuff happening. I want to thank Breno and Ness and Benny Films. Breno, this guy's got a cool YouTube page, though he speaks Brazilian, but there's a couple that are on there that are English. I mean, this whole setup is him, and he's really helping us develop the podcast. And I just want to personally thank him for taking his time to help us do that. I met him at church. I pastor young adults. They showed up, and he just came up to me and said, man, I feel like we're supposed to help you. And we're so excited, and I hope to return again, repay them for what they do, because it takes a lot to do this. And I'm taking away from his wife, and they're preggo, man. They're going to have a kid soon.
Dude, I didn't know
amazing.
that. Congratulations.
He's going to be a daddy.
Woo!
He's going to be a
Welcome
daddy.
to the club.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, just wait till you have 3, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Those little fat heads will be running around. You're going to be like, oh, people think sometimes they're annoying. They're not. They're cool. I mean, kids are awesome, man. So anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. This is our 11th podcast. It's exciting. God bless you guys. And we'll see you soon. Tune in next week. We got more for you.